Hey guys, this is going to be a new style of video for the channel, but I think it's going to be one that a lot of you are going to enjoy. So I have a buddy who recently moved to Montana from here in Wisconsin, who has his own podcast called the Year of Plenty Podcast. It's a great podcast about hunting, fishing, pretty much anything wild foods. He's had a lot of cool people on there, and if you haven't heard him before, you should definitely check it out. I'll leave all of his stuff linked down below. But this is a podcast that I did with Poldi, my buddy Matt, and my buddy Caleb. Caleb's been on the podcast before, and it was my first time for Matt and myself. But the podcast is called Harvesting Wild Foods Throughout the Season. We kind of touch on some deer hunting, some ice fishing, a little bit of mushroom foraging in the summers, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So I don't want to talk too much before we get into the podcast, but I'll have everybody's Instagram and social media linked down below. I'll have the Year of Plenty podcast down below. Make sure you subscribe to them. Listen to a few of his podcasts, write him a review. It's really good shit, so you guys should check it out. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much before we start this, like I said, so let's get right to it.
Okay. Gentlemen, you guys ready? Let's
Born
get this
ready.
podcast started. It's been a long time in the making, I would say. We've been wanting to do this for a long-ass time, and it was initially just going to be Tom, Matt, and I decided to add Caleb to the mix for another podcast. So I figured, you know what, why don't you guys just like kind of introduce yourself quick, like where you're from, how long you've been hunting and fishing, maybe what your favorite species to pursue is, just so the people listening can kind of get a feel for who you are.
Who's going first?
You guys should go first.
All right, I'll go first, I guess. Whatever. So like you said, my name's Tom. I grew up in Jefferson, Wisconsin, and I moved to La Crosse for college. I've been hunting and fishing my whole life. Anything from deer to turkeys or whatever. I've started hunting a lot more now that I've been hanging out with Matt. And Caleb got me into duck hunting finally today for my first time, which was sweet. But probably my favorite kind of hunting, I would say, is turkeys. Turkeys are just way too fun.
Yeah, it's first time for me this year with Matt and friends, and it was an incredible experience for sure. Matt, you want to go next?
Yeah. I'm Matt. I'm from Anago, Wisconsin, so it's up north a little bit. And just like Tom, I've pretty much been hunting forever just with my dad. I think I killed my first deer with my bow when I was 11, and it's still one of like the biggest bucks I've shot, unfortunately. But deer, turkeys, ducks, that's pretty much the main thing for me. Then musky fishing in the summers.
Yeah, you're a big fly musky fisher, which I don't know many people who do that, and it's pretty impressive. You get it done every year.
That's just awesome. As of lately, but yeah, used to be like on the lakes every day when I was up north. But
heck yeah. And then we have Caleb, veteran at this point on the Year of Plenty podcast.
You know me for my mushrooms, probably.
Yeah.
But similarly to Matt, though, actually, I started hunting really young with my dad. As young as I could go, I was bow hunting. And then over the years, kind of got a taste for the waterfowl. And now I'm pretty stuck on that.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that in a sec. First, I want to have Tom tell us quick about his YouTube channel, what that's all about, why you do it and whatnot, because I think it's a pretty cool gig you got going on.
So yeah, I think it was my sophomore year of college. I got a GoPro for my birthday because I was doing a ton of fishing. I was skipping class way too often and just going on fishing. And, that was kind of the point when YouTube was blowing up for all that kind of stuff. And I was, it wasn't so much because I was like, hey, I think I'm going to make a bunch of money off this. It was more like, hey, I want to go back and watch myself fish or, show my parents and my friends or whatever. So that's kind of how it started. And it's a lot of my videos I got right now are either trout fishing videos and a lot of ice fishing videos, but I'm hoping this year to try to get at least one deer on film, if not a few, and definitely want to get a sweet duck hunting video up too if I can. But other than that, I'll be making a bunch of ice fishing videos this winter. And I probably should have said this earlier, but the name TDT Outdoors, or you can search Too Damn Tough Outdoors on Instagram, on YouTube. You'll be able to find me. check it out. I try to post every day on Instagram, if not a few days a week, and try to post at least 1 or 2 videos a month on my YouTube channel. I like to do it more, but life's way too busy.
They're good. I like your videos a lot. I know Matt's been helping out a bit, or at least been featured in some.
Oh, for sure.
And
I'm sure Caleb will be in 1 or 2 coming up this year too.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I hope that new duck
Hope
boat,
so.
that new duck boat needs some prominence. It needs to be put out there.
Oh, it's not looking too new anymore.
Did you find a name?
It's been put through the ringer.
Did you find a name for it yet? You gotta have a name for your
No,
boat,
not
though.
yet. I don't know. Ask your subscribers if they have any good names.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Everyone send me some duck boat names to my Instagram at Poldi Wheeland. Or send them to Tom, because that boat needs some naming. I thought he would have had a name by now.
You know, I haven't quite fully broken it, and I haven't been through enough experiences. The other one broke down so much, it was just the old hag.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The other one blew up. The motor blew up.
It literally blew up.
That was insane.
And I lost my keys in the same day.
What a shit show.
Too bad you didn't lose your wallet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Thank God. That would have been awful.
You guys went duck hunting today. Tom, you said it was your first time. What was that like? Do you guys have any luck?
Yeah, I shot one myself, but between the 3 of us, we shot 5. We missed a lot of opportunities. I feel like we were, for one, kind of fooling around at some points. But yeah, last night they both kind of hit me up and were like, "Hey, you want to go?" And I was unsure at first because I had a buddy in town and I wasn't sure how late I was going to be out or whatever. But I was like, "Screw it, man! I gotta go." And I feel like I would have had a lot better experience if I wasn't dealing with 6 inches of water in my waders the whole day.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I haven't worn my waders in a few years, and I thought they were fine. And as soon as I got in the water, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm taking on water." And then,
Lesson number 1: get good waders for duck.
yes, and then when it was light enough, I could see it. I had like quarter-sized holes in my waders, and it was not good.
Oof.
Did you go get new ones?
I did. I went and bought a pair at Ace. They had one good pair left, and it was like, thankfully, it was like just the size I needed.
Are you guys
Awesome.
fans of neoprene waders? Matt, you're probably the veteran of like duck hunter wise among us here. Have you always had neoprene?
The thing is, I've never had enough money to buy the waders that I want. So I always go back to the same, just cheap neoprene waders, and I rip them
and you're
every
still
year.
getting it done, you know?
It's all about the shoe glue and duct tape, man.
Yeah, like I bought really expensive L-bean, like breathable waders, because I thought I needed them. And I'm just worried about ripping them now on like ice or like on a boat when I climb into the boat and stuff. So I feel like anyone who wants to get into duck hunting, like don't let that be, I guess, a barrier. Just get whatever waders you can. Like you're gonna beat them up anyway.
I would say definitely get something that has insulated boots though. Because last year,
100%.
I just wore my cheap trout fishing waders made in some foreign country last year, and it got not even that good. And it was so cold, like honestly, almost unbearable on some days when the ice started coming. I was wearing 4 pairs of socks and it still wasn't enough.
Well, that's what a lot of people like don't realize. When the ice comes, like you still got to get in the water, and I remember like when the first time I went out with Drew, I had to literally like, beat the ice with my fists to break it so I can walk through it. And like you're gonna get your waders cut there eventually, likely. So I feel like neoprene are the best to go. And then Matt, you just mentioned the shoe glue. I mean, that's one of the best ways. You should always have that at home because like you can just fix your cheap waders really easily with that.
Okay, so I've never heard of this shoe glue and duct tape thing. How does this work?
Show it.
Well, I
Drew.
mean, the way I do it, I just load up wherever I think it's leaking with my shoe glue, throw duct tape over the top, and then super glue around the edges of the duct tape, and it seems to hold pretty well.
Yeah, I fixed my like cheap trout fishing waders like that, and I didn't even use duct tape, and all the places I fixed are still holding up, and I beat them up too. So
Yeah, same. My waders are actually leaking in different places this year, so
So Tom, did you eat your duck yet? Your first duck?
So I have another buddy who's really big into duck hunting, and last week, I remember a few years ago he was talking to me and he was like, "Yeah, I like duck hunting so much, or I like giving a lot of it away, so I can't be over my possession limit and I can just go out duck hunting more." So I texted him. I was like, "Hey, you shot any ducks yet this year?" He goes, "Yeah." He's like, "Here's my garage code. Come get a bunch of duck." Got some duck, some geese, and some pheasant. So
Damn.
grilled
What a f-
those. I grilled those duck breasts up, and I didn't. I had a buddy over too, and I was like, "By the way, it's my first time ever eating or making duck, so I have no clue how it's gonna be." I had it in a little brine for like 2 or 3 hours, threw it on the grill, and both him, me, and my girlfriend went absolutely nuts over it. It was so good.
Yeah, I've never really cooked much with pheasant. Did you try that one yet?
I haven't tried that one yet. I mean, I've had pheasant before, but every time I've had it, my aunts just kind of usually wrapped it in bacon and threw it in the oven. So
Fuck yeah. What was your favorite part about duck hunting today?
probably the coolest thing was today was there was two, I think there was two or three, and they were way off, and I was like, there's no way they're coming back. And Matt was squawking on his call, and all of a sudden they like turned like they're coming back, and then got all excited again. I was like, oh, they're coming in again, and then they turned away again, and I was like, now they're totally gone. Matt's still over there squawking away, and they turned again, and they came all the way into the setup, and that's how actually I shot my first duck.
Heck
And
yeah.
I think Caleb. I don't know if Caleb got one too or not that time, um, but no, that was cool. I was because it was twice where I was like, "There's no way those ducks are coming in," and it's I don't know. It's crazy how they work, man. It was pretty interesting seeing that.
That's my favorite part too. What it always says, like, if someone is just good at working the ducks and the duck call, like seeing that happen, them circle you, leave, come back, and it's just a cool interaction with the animal. It's almost my favorite part about it,
It
personally.
was yeah, it was definitely nice going out with these two guys my first time because me being the greenhorn, it was definitely easy to ask these guys questions like, "Hey, should I do this? What should I do here?" Like, what can I expect to do? When this happens, whatever. So, having these two guys with me for my first time definitely helped out a lot and made it a lot more enjoyable.
Fuck yeah. Love to hear it. All right. Well, duck hunting, I sadly can't do it out here in Montana yet. I don't, well, I guess I could buy a non resident tag, but it's ridiculously expensive. I might do it if I can get, like, find someone who said, or who says I can, like, come out, like, enough with them. And then also maybe hit the goose, but I don't think anything's going to compare to what you guys have in the driftless around the Mississippi. It's just the best. Me and Tom were just talking about this before we started. Like, the driftless is so much to offer, and I'm noticing that now coming here. Like, there's a lot here too in Montana. Elk, just a lot more species for, like, deer species at least, and like I can hunt bear and whatnot. But I'm definitely already missing, like, the marsh and, like, just the whole, like, Mississippi feel. The duck hunting and the foraging, of course. It's just a lot drier here. I know it is probably enough to forage here. I just got to learn about it, but it's a big change for sure. And the other thing is deer hunting. I've noticed, like, not a lot of people hunt deer out here. From what I've been hearing, it's just like the focus seems to be elk mostly. But you guys have been getting after it. How has the deer season been so far? When did it start? First of all, it's like September
17th, I think.
September
18th.
17th or 18th.
18th.
It's the
Yeah,
18th it
18.
started.
Okay.
Matt, you already shot your buck. Tell us,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. How has that been?
I mean, it's awesome. I'm stoked, but at the same time, I just want to be hunting like so bad. I want to be in the tree stand so bad still, but obviously, like, I'm beyond happy with that deer. But yeah, it was sweet. I had a good situation this year. There's been like two different properties that I've had permission on since like freshman year of college, but it'd be like I'd have permission on one year, and then the other one would get leased, and then the next year the other one would get leased, and I'd have permission back on the other one. So I just wasn't able to like figure them out. Always had big deer on camera, couldn't figure them out. Then this year, luckily, I got permission on both of them, and I had a very good problem where I didn't know where to hunt because I had good bucks on both properties, and went in. It was actually Northern Duck Opener. It was a great weekend. Went up north Saturday, shot a 3-man limit up by Hudson, and then Sunday shot another 10 of them. drove back to La Crosse, immediately drove to my tree stand, checked the camera, didn't see many deer, went over to my other stand, sat in it, and then ended up shooting a pretty good one.
At what time?
I don't even know. It was like getting to the end of the day.
Evening
Definitely.
though, yeah, later in the day.
Oh yeah. It was in the afternoon, like just getting dark. I had a bunch of deer. I had like 6 does right under me, and I was watching a couple bucks out in the field, and one was starting to make its way like down the field edge towards me. Then out of nowhere, the does just like started blowing and got out of there, and this buck literally just like showed up under my stand. He was at like a trot, and I stopped him at 8-10 yards. Ended up making a pretty decent shot. I didn't know about the shot. Yeah, ended up being a good shot. I was nervous though. All I had was my iPhone flashlight. So I get down from my tree stand, find my arrow, and it's broken with like not very good blood. I was like, oh God, this again. Because I stuck a pretty decent one last year that I couldn't find. And then called Caleb and Dylan, drove back to town, picked them up, or I guess Caleb picked me up, drove back out there, and it was like 10 steps from where I stopped tracking it. It ran like 60 yards, 70 yards.
You were probably like the whole time, I don't know if we're
I
gonna find
was
this
tweaking.
deer.
I was tweaking. I called Drew immediately, and I was like, Drew, I did it again. I fucked up again.
The agony in your voice when you called me was it was priceless now, knowing that we got the deer and that it was literally right next to where you stopped looking.
Yeah.
Like within eyesight too. Like it wasn't through a thicket. It was literally
like I said, I was
right.
walking around with my iPhone flashlight, like waving it around the woods, just being useless.
That's one thing I learned last year when I wounded my buck and tracked him for freaking 9 hours in the marsh. You need a big ass flashlight. Like I always carry a big ass flashlight in my car now, especially for that, like 4 blood trails. Because we would find like a tiny speck of blood, every like 10 yards. And if you don't have a good light, it's just not going to cut it, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially if you don't make a good shot.
Yeah. Man, that's pretty awesome, though, that you got one already. How did you, like, was it 10-pointer, right?
Yeah, it was a 10. I scored it at like 136, but that's a very rough score. I was just like by myself using fishing line to get measurements. So
how long did the whole butchering go? Because you do it yourself, right?
Oh yeah, it was honestly terrible. I'm student teaching, and I don't even know what time did we get back, Caleb. We probably got it hung up by like 11 o'clock maybe in my garage.
If not later, honestly.
Yeah. So then Caleb and Dylan stuck around and helped me get the skin off it. And then they bailed because they both had stuff to do, but like understandably, they weren't going to sit there and help me process the deer all night. So I quartered it and threw all the quarters in game bags and threw them in my freezer. And then like took all the scraps I could off the neck and the ribs and stuff. And by the time I was done with it, it was like a little after 2 a.m. Then I called in sick the next day.
Yeah, that's what I would do in that case. Tom, have you gotten anything yet or seen much?
No, I've only been out twice this year so far. I've had a lot going on with, my personal life and other crap going on. But my first time I went out, I didn't see anything. My second time I went out, I went and sat at kind of my number one spot on public where I had a lot of my pictures of nice bucks this year. And I went and grabbed my SD card, got up in the tree, and I'm looking at my SD card, and literally like 4, 5, 6, and like 7 days before I hunted, there was people coming through squirrel hunting, which kind of sucks. I think that because after that I didn't have any more pictures of bucks and barely any pictures of any does. So I think they kind of ruined that spot a little bit, which it is what it is. I mean, it's public land, but when I was walking out actually that night, I was kind of sitting between some bedding and an alfalfa field. And as I was walking out, I kind of just took a random, pause just for one to catch my breath and to just keep myself, help myself slow down a little bit. And as soon as I stopped, I could see 4 little silhouettes jumping out of the alfalfa into the woods. So I was like, shit, if I would have sat up by the field, I could at least had a shot at a doe or something. But it is what it is. There's a lot of season left.
Yeah, especially archery. Have they even started rutting yet? Probably not.
Oh, no, it ain't not even close.
Yeah, because here I get confused now with the elk because they're already like getting toward.
They're pretty much done, huh?
Yeah, to the end of their rut.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wanna start like getting good at the whitetails out here because I don't see many people do it. I see a lot. I usually see them like in the farm fields though, not really in the mountains so much. or as much. And I hear like they call them like mountain whitetails out here, and I hear it's just a rare sight, kind of to find a big buck, whitetail buck up in the mountains. And but I'd love to figure out how to pattern those. And I've decided I'm selling my lone wolf, Matt, tree stand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a saddle, just for weight reasons. It's just I don't want to carry that thing around all the time, even though it's pretty light. But it's just the saddle is just even better. For those
Might
that
be able
don't
to
know,
like trade someone straight up for that.
yeah, or do that. I don't know if Dylan still. I know you wanted to get rid of his saddle, but for people that are listening and don't know, like a new thing in the last couple of years, I would say, is like this tree saddle thing that people use, and it's basically like a harness you sit in, and then you have a little like metal platform you attach to a tree, and you're usually like standing on that and kind of just hanging from the tree with a rope, and it's just super lightweight, and a lot of people are liking it. I'm sure it probably takes some getting used to shooting from like more of an angled position, but I think it's a pretty
People
cool
say
deal.
once you set them to yourselves too, they're actually more comfortable than sitting in a little hang on all day.
Yeah. And then you have like Caleb over here who's got, I think he just bought a new tree stand, he told me, but the last couple of years been hunting on this horrific piece of wood. You guys ever see his tree stand?
No.
Dude,
It's because it's been sitting in the woods the whole time, just slowly rotting away.
it's the
But-
sketchiest thing. He built it himself. It's a climber he built himself.
Well, it's not completely built myself. It was an old climber that like somebody gave it to my dad. It was somebody's old climber that they gave to my dad like 20 years ago. So it's probably like 40 years old. And and it's all steel. There's really not much to it. It's basically just a couple blades that dig into the tree, and the wood on it's been replaced quite a few times, but I like bolted on some backpack straps. I just ripped apart my old backpack and took the straps off it and bolted it onto it. Hey man, it worked. I've shot deer out of it. So
Oh yeah, you definitely shot deer.
I have a decent setup now though.
I'm just, every time I was worried, like Caleb's going hunting, I'm like, am I gonna have to like go look for him? Fell off the tree. But yeah, Caleb, you got a whitetail ready this year too.
Yeah, I got a doe. No, it was fun. I mean, it's always fun shooting stuff. I mean, I kind of planned on, I shot a doe early season last year, and that was kind of my plan this year again too, and it worked out perfect. It was I didn't really sit all too many days. I mean, it was pretty hot around here. It's still pretty hot here.
Still is.
But so I just went out when I could, and I don't know. I really like playing does, honestly, because I do a lot of calling. So in this one I called into, it actually walked, I don't know, probably like 50 yards away from me. They kind of like swung behind me. There's two of them actually. And then it walked down the public land, but I could hear them behind me. So then I just did a call, and they whipped a Yui, and one of them literally walked right underneath my stand, like right underneath my stand, and shot it. And I, just because of the angle, it looked like it didn't hit super good.
Right.
And I thought I was in the same situation as Matt here, and I thought that I didn't get a good shot on it. But then I even called Matt, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm about to give up right now. And I just stopped looking at the blood trail, and I just like turned my headlight on and kind of just do a little walk around, and it's sitting right there. Like it didn't even run that far. Probably ran like 60, 70 yards.
Same spot or different spot as last year?
Different spot this time,
Okay.
but
Yeah, the
honestly, both spots. I'm probably gonna go back to the other spot. Maybe even later probably this next week. See if I can get another doe.
I know you like to hunt like smaller parcels that some people might overlook, which is what we hunted last year, and that's where you got a really big doe. And this one looked really big too. That was a decent size, no?
Nah,
Nah,
it was a really average sized doe.
I didn't see it in person, but I thought last year's was pretty big.
Last year's, that was a big doe.
A lot of
It
meat
wasn't
came off
that big. It was probably 50 pounds less than that one.
And yeah,
Maybe not 50,
it seems like
but-
the angled shots is something like I have a lot of issues with that. I just don't practice that enough, shooting from a tree stand. And when you are on such an angle, you're gonna shoot higher, right? That's the issue. You gotta
Oh
almost
yeah.
aim a little lower.
Yep. Yeah, I only hit one lung because it was so high. I kind of like missed the whole lung that was facing towards me, and I just like nicked the top of the far lung.
You seem to be like pretty in tune with calling in does, like you were just saying. Most people, I would say, use like grunts to call in bucks or get them to stop or turn around. But how have you been doing the calling for does?
Just I mean, calling is just something like Matt when we're duck hunting, he just kind of calls just because he gets bored. That's kind of how I started calling for deer, and then you just kind of get good at it over time.
And you're using a doe bleed or what? What kind of calls?
Oh, just a doe grunt, just like not even a nice one, just the kind that you can do the buck grunt, you can do a doe grunt, you can do a fawn grunt. We kind of just like press on different parts of it. But now apparently in Wisconsin we can use electric calls though. So I don't know. I
Well,
might just start playing sounds off my phone.
well, I know you got one doing that last year. I didn't know that wasn't legal. But it seems to work. So I'm curious, how do you guys like prep for the deer season? Like, I think that's a pretty important step, right? And maybe finding success as quick as you guys have.
I haven't been successful yet, so let's go. Let's let these two go first.
Well, you can still tell us how you like to prep, though, if you want. But whoever wants
How
to
did
go
you
first.
prep this season?
Well, so this is my first year bow hunting, and it's also like my first year hunting up in the driftless area up here. So kind of like you were
Which
saying earlier,
means a lot
Poldi.
more bluffs, a lot more
Oh
hills
yeah,
than what you're
I'm
used
not
to.
used to hunting, you know, a lot of like the hills. I'm used to, where I'm from Jefferson. It's a lot of the shots you're taking are 200 yards across the cornfield. So it's pretty different, but um, kind of like you were saying earlier, I kind of focused a lot of my focus on like a lot of the smaller public parcels. I mean, I think the biggest one that I'm hunting is like 119 acres, which still really isn't that big if you think about it. Matt came with me to walk around it, and we did a lap of the whole property, pretty quickly. And we were still scouting. We weren't like trying to go through as fast as we could. But I guess it kind of started in the winter, when I was shed hunting. So did a bunch of shed hunting, by myself and with Matt and some other people this year, and kind of just, if I run into a spot where there's a lot of sign or whatever, if I saw, oh, this would maybe look good in the fall, I'd just drop a waypoint. And then throughout the summer, it was just kind of going back and checking those properties. Using trail cameras, obviously, like a lot of people do. I think one thing that's gotten a lot more popular the past year or so too is, and I've seen it a lot this year, people just driving around at night, with a pair of binoculars, just looking for deer. I saw a lot of really nice deer this year, and I got a lot of no's from people for permission this year as well. So, but I don't know. I got probably two or three properties that I feel pretty confident on that I can, at least shoot somewhat of a decent buck this year. But I definitely think I'll be able to get on a doe this year. It's like I said, I've only hunted twice, and I've kind of really, kind of been trying to focus on an early season buck pattern, which hasn't panned out. But yeah, that's kind of, my gist. Like I said, is my first year getting into it. But I feel like with early season, preseason prep, that's one thing that's always going to evolve for somebody, because you're going to do the certain, set of things one year, and then you're going to be like, oh, I wish I would have done this earlier, that, before the season.
Right.
So I feel like every year you're kind of adding tools to your tool belt, how you prepare for preseason and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, Matt taught me a ton about deer hunting last year because it's only like my fourth or fifth whitetail season, and like it's like my third or second bow season last year. So, like you said, you just learn every year a little bit more about it. Do you have like a favorite thing you look for in preseason prep? Like a certain sign or?
I would say like, I don't know, everybody. I'm trying not to go with the cliche answer. Obviously, everybody likes seeing giant bucks on their trail cameras in the summer. But I would say probably my favorite thing in the summer is just getting out in the woods and walking around. I mean, yeah, it's usually really freaking hot and you're sweating your balls. and you got mosquitoes biting you left and right. But you know, it's kind of nice just getting out in the woods, being able to walk. There's nothing in the season. This year too, I spent a lot of time instead of looking for deer tracks and deer shit, I was looking for mushrooms. So
Yeah, we'll get
but
into that. I want to talk about that later for sure, as you guys are somewhat, two of you are somewhat new to mushroom hunting. I know you were going pretty hard this year, so it's
oh
awesome.
yeah.
Matt, what about you? Preseason prep. You're longtime whitetail hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm by no means an expert. This is the first good buck I've shot in like 6 years. I've been struggling, but I've definitely just been doing it a long time, so I've figured some things out, but I've messed up a lot, obviously. I guess the biggest thing, especially last year, because when I went to Nebraska just shooting, I probably didn't shoot enough this summer, but I still shot plenty that I felt confident out to 40 yards, which I don't think you're going to shoot further than around here.
Yeah, no.
Especially early season. But I mean, I run trail cameras pretty heavily and probably check them more than I should. But if I can kind of figure out where one is living, or like where a couple of them bed very consistently, that's usually what I try to focus on. And I think I killed that buck probably this year, like less than 100 yards from where he was bedded, probably.
So find
Had
the
a pretty,
bed.
yeah. I mean, that's what people always say, and then I guess that's probably, I don't know, I run a ton of trail cameras, like not a ton compared to a lot of people, but for me and like our friend group, I run probably more cameras than most guys do, just because it's kind of a waste of time in certain aspects, especially when I run them in the summer, because half those bucks end up leaving.
It's so cool to see what's out there.
Yeah, and it just gives me a good excuse to get in the woods. And like every time I check my cameras preseason, I do like a little scout, check for like fresh sign, stay away from the bedding areas, but see if I can find where acorns are dropping. I like trying to find acorns a lot. I like hunting acorns.
So you said you like check them a lot. How, some people are worried about spooking the deer too much when they check cameras. How often do you go out there and check them?
I try to make it like 10 to 14 days. I have to really hold myself back to do that, but
like
usually what I try to
wait
do.
10 to 14 days between checking them.
But also when I'm checking them, if it's like a camera that I think is somewhere close to where bucks might be, I'll leave that one a lot longer. But like if I have one just over an egg field, or like something that farmers are frequently walking by, or they're constantly driving a tractor by or something, I don't feel as nervous while checking those ones.
Yeah, makes sense. What about you, Caleb? You got anything to add to that?
I guess now, like this year, I got a new bow, so that was obviously a big change up, because I'd been shooting the same bow since I was like 12. So that took a lot of.
Change that, because that string has never been changed.
Yeah, I never changed the string. I didn't know that was something that should be changed like every 3 years.
Yeah,
but apparently it is. It never broke, so I don't know. I mean, that bow had killed all of my biggest deer, so it was actually kind of sad, but I just needed to, because it didn't have, my draw length was way past that bow's max. And I guess now though, I guess preseason for me is like, now that I'm relatively comfortable in like the process of hunting, I usually try to like think of things that like, man, like what am I going to be like, I don't know, most comfortable doing, or things that are just going to make me more comfortable sitting out there. Because just like getting decent gear, at least adding a decent pair of clothing every year, or just having a nicer backpack, just something, I don't know, just something to be more comfortable. Because sitting out there, because I have a far different strategy than Matt as far as hunting goes, because I don't run, and I've never ran a trail cam in my life. And I mean, partially too because in the driftless, I like hunting with my dad back home for bucks, because it's only buck only back there, and like that's where he hunts. So if I shoot a buck here, I can't go back and hunt with my dad. So I'm really just trying to go for doe. And I feel that if I know that there's doe around, I know I can call them in. So I'm not super, I don't know, I don't really care all too much about where I'm sitting necessarily. I mean, obviously it has to be a good spot. I don't want to be sitting out in the open, but I don't know, just go in a week or two earlier and at least just try to find a tree, maybe a couple trees probably, and then just kind of watch them, see where they're going. If I can't call them in that day, I'll try to figure out what trails they're kind of going, and I'll move a little closer. And then one of the days, like, I'm going to get one.
Yeah, that's how you got yours last year too. I remember you telling me. And there's nothing wrong with shooting does. Like, I love eating does more than bucks, honestly. Matt, are you gonna try to get a doe too?
Oh yeah, I'm looking to shoot like at least 2 does, but after
like
staying
that.
up till 2 a.m, cutting that one up, I'm gonna wait until I can leave it hang in my garage for like 2 days.
Yeah, once it gets a little colder outside.
Yeah, that was miserable.
Yeah, it sucks when you hunt and you drag it, and then you also have to cut it up the same night, just because of the heat. It gets really tiring fast. So, you guys know I had Zach Fehrenbaugh on the podcast, and he was talking about hunting whitetail from the ground. Are you guys going to try to do that at all this year and try to get after them on the ground?
I want to. I know I've been talking to Matt about it, and I've got a few places that I've kind of got in mind. But I told myself before the season that I want to try at least once or twice. I mean, especially around here, I feel like you could do it pretty easily around here in a lot of different settings, because with how much elevation change there is, you can definitely use the change in elevation to your advantage. I feel like, even from the ground. But like I said, I have zero experience doing it, but I really want to get out and try it, and just try to learn something new.
Absolutely, yeah. And I like one thing what he said to me when I talked to him that really like made me like think was, that deer really, they run, yeah, when you bump them or whatever, when they know you're there, but they usually can't run super far, like physically, like biologically, they can only run a couple 100 yards and then they have to stop. And so he was kind of saying that, if they do ever run, pursue them, like get after them. And he loves doing that, like literally running after them. And my friend John Schwalba, who just started bow hunting last year, he had a situation like that. He's super like physically active, one of the fastest FedEx delivery guys I've ever met. He's literally like, they have a leaderboard and he's like in the top 10 of Wisconsin. He just runs all his routes. But he said he sprinted after these deer and actually cut them off and couldn't get a good shot, but he tried that and it worked out. They stopped and slowed down and he caught up to them and cut them off basically. So something to try. If you're in a tree stand, you can't like just run after deer, but we're all like pretty in pretty good physical shape. I think we could pull that off. And it seems like isn't that what they say humans used to do? Like, what was it like? There's a term for it when you run after the game and run them basically to death. It's like,
I know that was a lot more of a thing in like Africa and stuff.
Yeah, like endurance hunting or something like that they call it. Endurance sprints, I don't even know. But makes sense. I think that we would have done part of that way back when. I mean, we are bipedal and we can run pretty fast. We get pretty good cardio as humans, so not like some of the other game animals out there that need to take breaks. One more thing, deer hunting wise, favorite weather to hunt. Do you guys have a favorite weather? Do you have something you look out for?
Overcast and 7-mile-an-hour winds in a favorable direction.
Why do you like overcast?
I feel like the deer just move better. I don't know. I feel like most of the deer I've shot have been in overcast for some reason.
Cool. Do you guys have seen similar things, or do you have kind of different opinion on that?
I guess I haven't paid a ton of attention to overcast or sunny, but definitely wind. I want some wind.
Just because of noise, or why?
Yeah, noise, bugs.
Scent.
Scent. Yeah, you can just control your scent more. You can control your noise more. You can move when the wind's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something I noticed now for elk hunting too this year. It's just the wind is so important, way more important than even noise. I used to think that you can't make any noise. These animals are just going to hear you immediately and just run off. But we're making a ton of noise around these elk, and I think whitetail's a little bit more sketchy in that regard. But I've also had some situations last year where I thought I'm making way too much noise and they didn't even care, around me. Tom, do you have any like weather preferences?
I think like I would say like my ideal day for hunting would be it'd be a morning hunt. Um, Not super cold where like your feet are freezing or whatever, but cold enough to get a little bit of like frost on top of the plants or whatever, and a little bit of fog. I don't know if it's so much for like the actual hunting conditions, but I feel like that kind of morning is like the more like type of morning I enjoy most. Sitting out deer hunting.
Yeah, I love it when the snow is falling and like cold fronts. I mean, everyone always talks about cold fronts. I feel like that's something. I know, Matt, you like to do that, right? Get after them when there's a cold front coming in.
Usually like a day or two after a cold front, I've
After,
noticed
okay.
is like the best. Yeah. Especially if it stays like semi-cold after a big temperature change.
And you guys look at the barometric pressure stuff too? Do you guys ever worry about that?
Last year I paid a lot of attention to it and I didn't notice a ton of a difference. Cause what is it supposed to be like?
It's like
I have it.
30
It's supposed to be
point
a range, isn't it? Like, yeah, 30 point like oh
1.
one or like 30.1 to 30.3 is supposed to be the best buck movement or something.
Yeah, something around
I don't
there.
even remember what it was. But
And
I paid attention to that last year and didn't notice a ton of difference. And I actually remember looking at it before I shot my buck this year, and the pressure was crazy low. It was like 27.8 or something, and I saw 12 deer that night. So I don't know how much it factors in.
yeah, I read a study earlier on it, where like from I think University of Minnesota or Michigan, and they couldn't find any correlation there. But there's some hunters that just swear by it,
Swear by it. Yeah.
and they, it's hard to maybe represent that in a study too. And I guess it's like they did say in the study that it made minimal differences, but sometimes that's all you need is like that buck to like walk a couple hundred yards more than he usually would, or just be moving a little bit more, and that might give you that chance to see him and have him coming close enough. So I've never really paid attention to it. I know, Caleb, we were fishing last year. There were some old guys in Dressbach Dam that were just swearing by it. Remember we talked
I'd
to a
say it
couple.
makes more of a difference for fishing, from what I've experienced. For hunting though, like I do pay attention, but at the same time, I'm gonna go out when I'm gonna go out. Like I know when my times are, so sometimes I'd rather not even know and just take the day as it is.
Yeah. Tom, have you found the barometric pressure to be significant at all for you?
Kind of like Caleb said, I feel like it's more applied in fishing. I feel like you see more of a difference in fishing. But even like fishing wise, I don't know. I feel like like Matt said, like whether no matter what the pressure is, I feel like for both fish and deer, so there's deer up, there's deer moving, there's somewhere they might just not be where you are at the moment. But I think I don't think a deer is going in its head. Oh, that's low pressure today. I don't want to go to that cornfield and have any corn. I'm just not feeling it today. I mean, I don't. Like I said, it might have some minor differences, but I feel like there's like more important like stuff to worry about, like the wind and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's obviously so many variables that'll like go into a hunt, especially like deer. You can't just like predict it really 100%. But I would say if you're like a beginner, I wouldn't let all that stuff like overwhelm you. Like, you know, you can still be successful despite there being all these things that the really good hunters look for. And I think nothing really beats just going out there, like being curious, experiencing it, and just really, yeah, putting in the work. Just get out there as much as you can. Learn about the different situations that you find yourself in, how the animals behave, and eventually it'll happen. That's just kind of how I look at it. Enjoy the process. So, what do you guys like? What are some new things you guys maybe did this year, if any? Is there anything you changed about your deer hunting specifically?
I bought a thermocell.
Oh, nice. That can actually, like you were saying earlier, like if you're comfy, you can just stay in that
Literally.
stand so much
And
longer.
it's just being in, especially for bow hunting, being in a good frame of mind and not being uncomfortable, you're just gonna make a better shot.
True, and you're just gonna sit longer because, like,
Yeah.
out here I've noticed like you add this whole like physical component to hunting where you're walking for miles and you're just dead tired after a while. But out there in Wisconsin, you might not have that as much, but you got that mental, like, you gotta have mental fortitude to sit in that freaking stand long enough and often enough. So anything that will make that more comfortable is going to be to your advantage, I would say.
It's going to be nice come turkey season, Caleb.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Because I got eaten alive last year, late
Yeah.
season a couple times. Oh, it was terrible.
By just mosquitoes?
Oh, yeah.
Caleb likes to use this like see-through mosquito net over his face, right? You always bring that thing out. Or you have. I know you have.
When?
Last year, you let me borrow.
I'm just trying to think.
You let me borrow your mosquito net.
Oh,
face
okay. Sorry, I just didn't, I couldn't picture what you were talking about for a second. Yeah, I use it sometimes. I usually just use that if it's like really bad, like seriously bad.
Yeah,
But-
I thought it's a pretty cool add-on. Like, it's lightweight. Might as well just throw it in the pack
Yeah, it's basically just like one of those like beekeeper things.
without minus the hat thing.
Yeah.
The beer time,
Yeah.
Matt?
Beer time.
Hey, beer time, I guess. I'll
I
grab
was
one.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I wish I had some whiskey that would make my life good. I have it all in Wisconsin still, but my family's coming out next weekend. They're bringing like 8 bottles of scotch
Nice.
out here. So,
Did you finish all your plum wine?
no, they're bringing some of that out too. It turned out great. I thought our plum wine turned out really great. How was your what why are you laughing, man?
I don't know.
I
I'm not a huge fan.
I asked
Honestly.
Caleb about it earlier, and he wasn't sure about it.
But
It's
at the
not
same
a
time,
traditional
though,
wine. It's not like
No, not at all. It's just very. It almost has like a whiskey kind of taste to it because there's so many tannins in it.
yeah,
There's just so many. I just don't like it because you can't drink much of it at all.
I can.
Like,
I have. What do you mean? Like
drink
just-
up whiskey all the
yeah,
time.
That's because you're German, Poldi.
I don't know. I'm not a big drinker, but I like the whiskey flavor. Like, I like that
Yeah,
strong
No,
flavor.
I do. I get what you mean. I haven't drinking a whole lot of it. I'm kind of just waiting to see if maybe it'll settle out a bit with more time. But I mean, it's definitely not bad. Like, I don't think it's bad, but I
Did
think
you-
that I don't know. I've made other wines that I feel like were better.
Did you try the honey mead we made yet?
I did try it last time I was home. I did
was
the final re-rack. It's pretty sharp as far as alcohol. Like, it's strong. Like, it's really strong. It's way stronger than I thought it would be.
Fuck yeah. That's what I like to hear. I have mine still in Wisconsin too, so I haven't had a chance. I finally re-racked it though. Mine's probably gonna have a little bit more of a yeast flavor in it, just because I was supposed to rack it like way earlier, which
That's
means just
fine.
putting it into a new container, a new carbo.
Because I mean, me and Dylan drank a bunch of his before it was even completely done fermenting, and it was still a little effervescent.
Pretty close.
And very clovey. But it was fine. The honey is kind of, I wouldn't say it pairs well with the yeasty flavor, but as far as flavors could go, I feel like honey is a good one to mix with the yeast, or at least hides it a bit.
Yeah. What do you think the birch sap added? You think that was a good addition?
I have no idea, and I'm actually like, we really should have done one with regular water.
Yeah, test like a control, make a
Yeah.
little experiment there.
Mhm.
Tom, Matt, have you guys ever made wine?
Oh, I was just
Well,
telling Caleb today when we were talking about it, like, because I love drinking wine. It really gives me terrible hangovers, and I get a little mouthy when I drink too much. But I love drinking wine, and I've always wanted to like make my own. So it's definitely of interest to me.
Oh, dude, let's do it. People are selling their grapes. Like, so many people just have big vines of Concord grapes around here, and even on Facebook Marketplace, people just sell them super cheap or even for free. You could probably just pick up a bunch of them and make some wine.
Well, shit, man. You'll have to teach me how to do it then.
Did you
It's pretty
find
easy.
Did you find any plums? Wild plums this year, Caleb?
I did find some. I just didn't. I mean, I picked enough to eat them, but I didn't have my carboy up here at the time. So I should have just picked a bunch and froze them like we did last year. But at the time, I also didn't have a lot of freezer space. So
Yeah.
now I
we
really
should
don't
try,
have any freezer space.
I think we should try dandelion wine in the spring. That would be
Yeah.
an interesting one.
I wonder if there's enough sugar in parsnips even
Ooh,
to make some sort of fermented beverage.
yeah.
I got into parsnips this summer.
You did? Well, let's talk
Yeah.
about foraging. Let's freaking do it. I mean, you guys literally, I mean, I remember, Tom, we talked a lot last year. I know I didn't take you out as much as I said I would.
Yeah,
Sorry.
asshole.
But
And then you move on me
And
and
then
don't ever take me out. What's going on with this shit?
well, I knew you'd be in good hands with Caleb here. But both of you, Tom and Matt, really started foraging more heavily, I would say, this year, right? How
Oh, yeah.
has that been? Like, tell me a little bit about it.
It was awesome actually. So the first time we went out, it was myself, Matt, and then Dylan. Because it was just one day, like after work, Matt texted me. He goes, "Hey, dude, you want to go look for some mushrooms?" And I was like, yeah. I was like, "You know what you're doing?" He goes, "No, I don't know it's shit, but Dylan knows what he's doing." So we went and hiked around a little bit that day. We found, I think we pretty much all we found was chanterelles. I'm pretty sure, but he had a
That's
bunch of
a good
mushrooms at
mushroom
his
to
house.
find.
Oh, I think those are by far my favorite. But because he had a bunch at his house that, I believe it was you, Caleb.
Oh,
You
my
and Dylan.
house that he was living in?
What was it?
I think probably. Where
What?
was it? Was it by the Y?
I don't know, but it was all the mushrooms you guys picked the day before. So he
Oh yeah,
kind
that was
of
my house.
he kind of gave me and Matt a little bit of chicken into the woods too, and some golden oysters, just so we could kind of try everything. And I don't know, kind of from that moment, it was just like, I mean, because I like mushrooms as it is, and it was just, I don't know, it's way cooler. I feel like when you can go out and be like, oh, that looks like it could kill you, but it's gonna taste really good.
I love mushroom hunting. I feel like it's a very underutilized, substantial food resource.
Big time.
If you know what you're looking for, you can find so much. Like half of
Oh,
my freezer right
100%.
now. I almost have an equal amount of mushrooms in my freezer as that deer. Like for sure.
Meaty mushroom too. Hen of the woods, right? You guys
Yeah, hen
been
of the
finding
woods and a
much?
bunch of chanterelles. I found so many hens this year.
So you told me that it's like one of the best 10 years ever, and I'm fucking missing it. I'm
See,
so sad.
okay, I don't know if it's just every year seems like the best 10 year, but I think it's also
Not last
I
year.
think well, I found a bunch last year though.
I did
And
not.
and I think it's just because I've been looking for them for so many years here. I know exactly where to go every single time because they come back on the same trees year after year. And if they don't come back on that tree the next year, the year after that, it's going to be there. So I just have like this mental note of all these trees. So I just know exactly where to go. So it just seems like better years every year. 'Cause
Not
I
even
just
marked in
add more
Onyx,
onto
huh?
them.
Not even marked. You got them all in your
No, I don't trust my mushroom spots on Onyx.
head. Matt,
It's
Tom,
not
did you-
secure enough.
yeah, that is one thing. Onyx knows all the best spots. Those people, if they wanted to, they could just find everything. Tom, Matt, did you guys find hen yet?
To
this
hack
year?
Onyx.
Yeah.
I found
No, I didn't
two
find any
hens.
hen.
I found two.
Really?
Yeah, they were both at the state park that I work at, and one was prime. It was super delicious. One was the bugs had gotten to it, and it wasn't good anymore. But yeah, no, I went home that night and went and bought two steaks from Quick Trip and fried up some of the mushrooms and had them with my steak, and man, they were so good.
How did you end up cleaning them? Just kind of pull them apart into the
Yeah,
fronds?
I kind of just pulled, I guess people call them feathers or whatever. Just kind of pulled them apart, and like the stringy, stemmy part, I would just kind of cut off. Rinsed them a little bit in water, and I mean, if there's dirt or whatever on them, I mean, it's not going to kill you for one, and for two, I feel like the frying pan takes care of a lot of that shit, anyways.
Oh yeah, big time. You do not want to eat wild mushrooms. We talked about that in the last episode Caleb was on. It's not. That's how you get, bacteria and whatnot. Any wild food, really. Like foraging
I've
wise.
seen people do them. Did I ever tell you that like one of the first times that I sold mushrooms to a restaurant, the cook there, it was a chicken of the woods. Me and Sabrina found this like massive chicken of the woods, and we brought it to a restaurant here in La Crosse. And the chef there was like, "Oh man, that looks so good! Like it looks so fresh." He just like takes a chunk of it and just eats it. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
He was fine though, I guess. So
How
I don't
much?
know.
How much hen did you find this year, pound wise?
A lot of them they came so quick that when I was going around the woods, if every hen that I found was good to eat, I shit you not, I probably found like close to 100 pounds.
Shut the fuck up. No way.
I'm not kidding you. I probably myself, because I ate it pretty much every day for a while, I've probably already eaten like 5 or 6 pounds. And I probably have another 15 in my freezer. And I probably gave away 30 pounds.
Do you guys get to try any of this yet? If
Well-
not, you gotta get some.
Yeah,
Raid his freezer.
Yeah, raid my freezer, man. I have a bunch of it. It's all vacuum sealed and clean and nice.
Yeah, so you cleaned it and just kind of froze it, right? Did you dry it
Yeah.
at all?
Not at all. Well, I do I purposefully just keep them in a bag in my refrigerator, like a paper bag, and kind of let it sit for a while because it does kind of slowly dry out
yeah,
like a
lose
little
moisture.
bit. Yeah. And then I freeze it right before the stage where the fronds, like the very tips of the fronds, like start getting a little like crispy almost. Like right when the very tips of them start getting a little dry, then I'll take them apart like into vacuum, like portion size bags, and I'll just vacuum seal them. I feel like hen are kind of one of the mushrooms that you can do that with. Like I wouldn't recommend freezing most mushrooms raw like that, but I feel like hen is a good one to do that with.
I know a lot of people like to, they say just get the moisture out. So they cook them a bit, mushrooms, before they freeze them. Like you don't cook them all the way, but you just cook them a bit, get some of the moisture out. So maybe you're doing something similar here. And I'd be interested in how long those keep. Let me know when you eat that last package of hen out of your freezer and how that turned out.
Well, I did that last year too, and I didn't even vacuum seal it. And
Really?
I was eating them. I ate hen into the spring, and they were fine. Especially if you're gonna throw it into a dish too, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference.
Talking about a dish, one of the podcast listeners sent me a recipe for hen. I want to show you guys real quick. So hang on, let me pull that up. So here, maitake beef stew. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
This, I'm telling you, you need to try. You guys should make a big dinner together. Switch that beef out with venison.
Actually, to say that having the big dinner together, what I've been wanting to do for a while is I want to damn fly. I've been wanting to get a bunch of people together and just do just pick a Saturday where nobody's going out hunting or fishing on Sunday, so we can stay out late and have fun. But I want to have a bunch of guys over and just do like a wild game cookout where like everybody brings, somebody brings venison or fish or whatever, and just get 8 or 10 guys together and they're just slaying brews and eating wild food. It'd be awesome.
Fuck yeah, I wish I were there for that one. It's one of my favorite things to do.
You might have to make a special trip.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving, Poldi.
I am actually coming back, but only like 3 days. So, but Tom, you live really close to Ocon. Maybe we do it at my place. I've been trying to get Caleb and Matt there forever.
Dude, shit, we could do that.
I have an outdoor kitchen, so we got everything set up for it back home.
Oh, something I wanted to bring up. So, one of the guys that I work with during the summer roofing, his brother owns a pheasant farm, or like they raise the pheasants that they sell to farms. And I asked him how much it would be for pheasants, and he was like, if there's like a bunch of pheasants left over at the end of whenever their selling season is, Like we could probably get a bunch of them really cheap.
And just
And
butcher
just
them.
Sick. No, we're not. Well, we butcher them after we
We go and
Yeah.
shoot
made them
them.
all dizzy and stuffed them in some bushes and
That's
picked them up.
sketchy. Well, I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Or
Caleb
if we
this
tell
year-
him beforehand, if I like tell him beforehand, he could get us a bunch like early next year.
that'd be fun. But I know.
I don't know
Caleb-
if is it legal to just let them go on public land?
Probably not.
Definitely not.
Yeah, there's no way the
Yeah.
DNR would not like that.
No.
Why? I mean, we're just repopulating.
Yeah, I think they want to know.
Yeah,
how many-
that's probably how CWD started. Some dumbass bought a deer and said, "Oh, the DNR won't care. There'll be one more deer in the woods."
And now we got a huge
Now-
CWD
And now
problem
there's CWD.
everywhere. Caleb, I know you you butchered like 20 chickens for the first time this year, right?
Yeah, that was a chore.
Tell us about that a little bit. What was that like? I've never done that. Do
Well,
they
just
actually
so-
like run when you cut their head off? Do they just keep going?
Well, my girlfriend's mom and her boyfriend raised a bunch of chickens. They were like all organic, super. I mean, they were definitely like genetically modified chickens.
What does
because
that
they
mean?
were well, I don't know if they're genetically modified or just selectively bred. They're probably just selectively bred, but their only reason for life is to give meat.
Well, that's literally all meat chickens. Like we have breeds.
Yeah, it's
for
just a
eggs
meat. It
and
was just a
breeds for
meat chicken.
Yeah.
So they're like, but I'm used to because they also have a bunch of like regular like laying hens and some cocks out there. So the these chickens were just drastically different because they were like missing feathers and parts of their body, but they got to full size in like 3 months.
Fuck that.
And
I
full
don't think
size
that's
was
normal.
like these were massive chickens, like 8-pound chickens, like 10-pound chickens. And they were kind of just disgusting looking to start with. So like that helped with having to slaughter that many chickens. But
Oh
what we
my
did
God.
was we took like a traffic cone and cut the bottom off of it so you could like fit their heads in it. Then you just like put them head first into the traffic cone and like pull their head out of the bottom and just take a knife and just like lop off their heads. So like their wings are like stuck inside the traffic cone.
Jesus
so they
Christ.
can't like move around. Then once they stop like flailing, then you just throw them into the bucket of boiling water and then pluck them.
I got
them.
I got somewhat of an experience doing that this year grouse hunting. The last time we went, my brother shot one, and it was well, this one was the one I shot actually, and it was still kind of flopping around. So I grabbed it by the head to like swing it around a bit, break its neck. Well, I guess I did it too hard because the fucking head fell off. So I'm holding the head. And it's like still moving once the head is off. It's like trying to get up, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, these forest chickens must be similar to what people always say about butchering real chickens. So you got 20 chickens then at the end of it,
Yeah, they had 20 chickens that we butchered.
and you got to keep them all?
No, I only kept one of them.
Oh, okay.
But no, they're their chickens. They raised them.
Oh, I see. I thought they. Like,
I was just
gave
there
them to you.
helping them.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't have 20 chickens.
Well, I thought they just like gave you the 20 chickens, but that must have been a cool experience for sure.
Yeah, no, it was just they just needed help. It was I mean, it's a serious chore. It took like half a day. Like it takes just think about plucking a duck, but then you're doing that to 20 chickens. Like it's just not a fun task.
I know like machines you can use and stuff to like, I know you can put them in like boiling water or something like crazy like that.
Yeah, you put them in boiling, you like basically just like blanch them, and then it makes it way easier to pluck the feathers out, but it's still not easy though at all.
Yeah.
There's just it's easy to get the feathers out, but to get all of the feathers out, it's super hard.
I want to do it for sure. But yeah, we just went on a little tangent there. We're talking about foraging. I still want to know like Tom and Matt, what are your favorite mushrooms to go after thus far?
So I would say my favorite mushroom that I had this year was the chanterelles. Those are by far my favorite. But every time I found them, the bugs had already gotten to them, so I never really got to enjoy a lot of those, but found a lot of chicken and a lot of golden oysters too. I actually one of the big camping trips we had this year with my family and a bunch of family friends. I probably found, I think it was like 3 to 3.5 pounds of golden oysters a day
Wow.
before I left. So that night we had one of the guys made smoked brisket. So we had smoked brisket and golden oysters. And it's
Ooh.
kind of cool because now two of my dad's friends from the group, they're the rest of the summer they were texting me pictures, because they have woods that they live, that they own and stuff. Texting me pictures, hey, thanks for showing me the golden oysters. These things are super awesome. So it was kind of cool, they were asking me a ton of questions, and obviously I didn't know a whole lot, so I was kind of telling them what I knew. But it's kind of cool seeing that even how little experience I had, not enough of an impact on them that they went out and they want to go get their own, mushrooms themselves, which is it felt good. It's kind of cool.
I love that. Yeah. And you don't need, you just take it step species by species. Like, don't need to be like this mushroom expert to go out there and start picking some of them at all. And you just got to know that one species you're going after really well, or at least enough to know that you're not going to die from it, right? If you eat it. And yeah, it's what it's all about, getting other people to pursue that. And I think, would you say, like, both of you, would you say that foraging is added to your like outdoor experience?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, like, at least for me, it's just another thing to pay attention to. So it like makes me move even more slowly through the woods.
While you're like
I
deer
feel like a lot of
scouting,
times
for
I'm just,
example?
yeah, I'm just always like an antsy person, always in a rush. So like when I'm scouting pretty quickly. Then all of a sudden I come across like one chanterelle. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be more of them. And then I'll do like a really slow, like 50-yard loop around the area that I found. And then I might find a rub that turns into a rub line or something. So just like another added thing that makes you slow down and pay attention to what's going on around you a little bit more, I'd say, at least for
Yeah,
me.
I'd say another thing on that too is just like now, like I don't know, it's almost like I'm now like mushroom conscious, whether I'm like driving or you know riding down the river in a boat or whatever, or if I'm driving the UTV through the trails at work, whatever. Like if I'm close if like there's if there's trees around me, it's like, oh shit, because chicken of the woods are so easy to see, like they're so easy to spot because their colors. So like kind of always watching. But kind of like Matt said, you're just, I don't know, just more aware at all times.
Yeah, that's something I noticed too. Like, it just adds to the whole experience because you slow down and you just observe more, and it's just another way to participate in this like awesome thing that nature is, right? Um, so
I got
yeah,
kind of a
I'm.
funny story about that, Tom.
Tell us the story.
This summer, I went up north to musky fish with one of my buddies while I was camping with my family. And on the way back, I musky fished for a day with my buddy. And I left his place and I was driving like 60 down the highway. There was national forest on my right. And all of a sudden, I like slammed on the brakes. I was like, wait, what the fuck was that? Spun around. There was a chicken like 30 feet up in the tree, like way up there, but a big ass one. I was like, dude, I need that. And I just did a quick loop around the tree. And then I saw another one like probably like 12 feet up there. It's like, oh, I got this. I had one climbing stick in the back of my car because I was setting trail cameras. So I set the climbing stick on the tree, stood on the top rung, and then just jumped as high as I could and grabbed like the biggest chunk of chicken I could off the tree.
Fuck yeah, it was a pretty good one.
Oh, it was a great one. Yeah,
That's dedication. I love that.
exactly.
Yeah, that I mean the car, like for chicken especially, a lot of people just go out in their cars and drive around. They're so bright orange. Usually there's a lot of them. They just stand out. So it's one way to find them.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I love to hear though that you guys are getting after the mushrooms now too, and just wait until you add more plants to the whole
Oh, I
spiel.
don't want to. I guess, and one thing I would add too is, for anybody else who's like getting into like foraging for mushrooms, I think probably the easiest ones, at least for me to identify, was obviously one, chicken of the woods. It's easy to identify. They're easy to find. It's not like a lot of mushrooms. Like they're going to be on dead trees pretty much every single time. So, and I feel like it's one of the easier ones to find. Um, I would say so. Like chicken of the woods and golden oysters are like the two. If like you want to start, those are like two like really good introductory easy to identify, like not any like real lookalikes. So that's kind of how I started, and I feel like it was a really easy transition for me and really easy for me to learn all that kind of stuff.
You found a good amount of chicken too, right?
Oh, I found so much chicken this year. I had so much chicken at one point where like I was finding chicken in the woods in the park, and I'd like text Matt and be like, "Hey, you want any chicken? Like I don't need any more." I remember I traded Caleb some chicken for some hen at one point just because I didn't I had so much chicken throughout the summer where I just was like, I don't want any more chicken.
How did you cook yours?
So I did it a few different ways. The first few times, I just breaded it and deep fry it like you would fish or whatever, and that was pretty good. And then the second time I did it as part of a stir fry.
Ooh, I
So
never tried that.
I threw it in a stir fry, and that was absolutely amazing. And I kind of left the chunks a little bigger too, kind of kept like left the chunks a little bit bigger, and I felt that was it was, it's just like having bell peppers or whatever in a stir fry. It was definitely recommend trying that out.
Yeah, it does. It's an interesting texture. It is kind of like chicken. I mean, that's why they call it that.
Oh, 100%.
I like chicken as a meat substitute almost,
like
because even I mean, by no means am I a vegetarian or a vegan, but
Obviously.
once in a while though, it is nice to kind of have like a fully, I don't know, like just foraged plants and mushroom meal, and just leave the meat out once in a while. But chicken's just a good one to do that. And the stir fry is a great idea. I like doing the stir fry, and I like doing like curry, just like substitute like meat in like a curry and use chicken. It just soaks up the flavor so well that it's just delicious. I like what you said, Poldi, too, about um taking basically just taking foraging like one species at a time.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
so many people, they like want to get into it and they're just so overwhelmed by everything because there's so many different plants, there's so many different mushrooms that they almost just like give up before they even started. But it's really not about that. It's literally just one species at a time, get comfortable with it, move on to the next one. It's not like you're just going to forget the last one. And then you just add on to your list and add on to your list and add on to your list. And then like before you know it, you're just going to have a whole mental book of things that you can eat. And then when you're walking around, you're just like, there's food everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
It is awesome. Especially, like I said, if you add the plants, and I know I got mad into the ramps this year a little bit.
Yeah, it all started with the ramps. After that, it was just downhill.
You got me into the ramps too, Poldi. Actually,
know.
Matt was over one day. We were tying flies, and you came over and you brought me a little baggie of ramps, and I'm pretty sure I ate those things. Like I finished that whole bag the next day. I was just eating them plain.
Glad to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
No, this year, I mean, you guys got plenty out where you're at. So Caleb knows the spots. Matt knows some of them. So you guys got to get out there in the spring at least. Well, Matt and I, we made the pesto that Caleb and I usually make at Matt's house, and we found, I mean, we had a shit ton of ramps. And how many jars did we end up having? Did you end up having of the pesto?
I think I had 4 quart jars.
Yeah, and they were a pretty big hit with your friends and family.
Oh yeah, everyone
or
loves
did you eat
it.
them all yourself?
No, I gave away. I ended up splitting them up into like pints, and I gave away like 2 quarts in total. I think I still have one in my freezer.
Yeah, I still have one too. I need to take that out. Thanks for reminding
me.
Yeah,
same.
There's one jar that like the ones we made this past spring, I had never frozen. It's just been in the fridge, and I just ate a bunch of it like a couple days ago, and it was still fine actually.
Damn,
so
that's good to know, because I'm guilty of having thrown away one glass before where I'm like, okay, this has been in the fridge for too long. But I guess if you add the right amount of oil like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I kept like there's a solid like 1/4 inch of olive oil above it.
That's what I was doing too.
Still
that's what we were doing.
Super green. Like you wouldn't even be able to tell that it's old at all.
Yeah, just
like it's still the same green color.
Once you have it all in there, add some olive oil to the top of the pesto and just seal it, that way, and so no oxygen can get in. I think that's one of the ways to do it. And Caleb, so I took the chanterelles this year how we talked about, and I made about 1 glass.
Oh, nice.
Just like, so guys, you guys, I don't know if to give you more context,
Yeah, I
like,
saw your video.
yeah, like my grandma used to do this in Italy with mushrooms. Like take them, usually like button mushrooms, like boletes, and pickle them in olive oil, marinate them basically, put like a chili pepper in there and garlic, and it was an interesting process. Like first I cleaned them obviously, then I had to salt them. So I took a big like oven sheet, put all the chanterelles on there, heavily salted them to get all that moisture out. Next day it had to be boiled in vinegar, which I think I might have used too much salt and vinegar there because did kind of taste like that a lot. But I don't know how much you can avoid that, since you need to go through these steps to preserve them right. After you boil them, you let them dry. You get like a little bit leathery, and there you got to watch out, I guess, because they can go from like the perfect consistency to like super leathery real fast. But once you basically let them dry, you pack them in that jar, add like your spices and your chili and whatnot, your garlic and all the olive oil. I used like a really high quality extra virgin olive oil, and then you put it in the fridge and let it sit for like a week, and then you can just take it out, let it bring it back to room temp, and just eat them just like that, and they're awesome. I mean, I got more into boletes this year, which they're porcini. I don't know if you guys, Tom and Matt, have heard of boletes. They're like,
Heard of Dylan talking about them, but that's about it.
yeah, boletes is like a big group, but the porcini, the king bolete is like super highly prized, super expensive mushroom, and they grow out here in Montana a decent amount. And went out with my buddy Hayden, but next year I'm going to try it with the boletes just because they're even a little thicker than like chanterelles. You know, like they hold their consistency a little more, I think, after you like salt them and boil them and dry them and whatnot. So we'll see. Definitely worth trying. Always trying to figure out new ways to preserve things and make them last longer, so we can enjoy these wild fairs throughout the seasons, right? Not just in the spring and whatnot, or when they're, because sometimes those seasons are pretty short. But then you keep adding on new species, and then you get back to what Caleb was saying, where you're like, fuck, there's fucking wild food out here 365. Like, you can always find something, which I love about it. Man,
Lauren and her mom ended up pickling some chanterelles too.
Oh, really?
I just gave them all the ones that were like, they just took all the like super tiny ones, and they pickled those, and I thought they were super good.
Like the button ones, yeah, the ones that don't get super big yet. Those are what you're
Yeah.
supposed to be using for the pickling.
Okay.
Did they pickle it in like vinegar, like a pickling solution, or olive oil?
It was in like a solution, like
Okay.
a pretty, I wouldn't say, I mean, they made their own, they added all their own spices and stuff, but I would say like a standard pickling solution with vinegar.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah. Sweet. While
They,
foraging,
they threw asparagus in there too, I think.
ooh, wild asparagus or store bought?
I don't know.
It's probably store bought because it grows
Probably.
in the spring. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one you guys should, Tom and Matt, you need to get after next year. That's a really simple one. Wild asparagus, and you can.
So
Dude,
I
it's
actually,
simple, but it's so hard at the same time.
My boss and I, we were up on one of the hiking trails doing a little repair one of the weeks ago, and he goes, "Oh, look, there's a giant patch of wild asparagus," and I didn't know that was there the whole year, and I was like, "Mark on Onyx, I'll be back next spring."
That's what you got to do.
I'm not like Caleb. I don't have a powerful enough memory where I can just store
I
all
don't
that
either.
in my mind bank.
When people,
figured
Yeah, I
that-
know you don't, Poldi. I've seen your on X before.
I was about to
You
say,
don't label anything. It's just X's everywhere.
I have a lot of X's, and I have like an X for everything. Like people like, holy shit, that's a lot of like deer spots. And I'm like, no, like 40, maybe like 60% of it is all like foraging, like waypoints. I'm getting better though. I'm starting to label stuff, go back over it. So you guys want to talk a little bit about ice fishing? Because I'm already getting pumped. I don't know about you guys. You guys.
Oh,
yeah, I'm kind of getting excited for first ice. We were actually talking about that today when we were out duck hunting.
I'm glad to hear that. Like out here and bringing up ice fishing, and people are like, "What the fuck?" Like we're thinking about elk. I'm like, well, I'm ready to ice fish already. So one thing that out here I think is going to be a big game changer is there's some places where you cannot use live minnows in Montana, like a lot of places, which is just really gonna screw things up for me because I like using live minnows.
Yeah, that sucks.
I mean, that's all
Big
we did
time.
last year.
Pretty
That's-
much.
Dead sticking or tip downs or whatnot, or even jigging with minnows.
Tip
But
downs did some work last year.
I
say
feel
it-
like it was last year more than other years too. I feel like it was everybody I talked to said I couldn't. Oh, I jig for an hour and I couldn't catch shit. I set up 3 tip downs and I had my limit in 20 minutes. It's just I don't know what it is, but like I said, I think it was this year more than any year too. They just were really after those minnows.
Yeah, I mean, that was really my first introduction to tip downs last year, and it was so much fun. I mean, we were just crushing it on them. So I figured, like, a lot out here, I talked to a lot of people. They're like, "What the fuck's a tip down?" So I don't know if they're just not ice fishermen or what. They said they ice fish, but I want to talk about tip downs a little bit, like tip down strategy. I know it's pretty simple, but maybe we can kind of like go over what a tip down is and like how you set him up and kind of why we like him. I should probably share like a picture of one because I'm gonna look that
Yeah,
up
it's
quick.
gonna be hard to explain.
Yeah. I think Matt should talk on this one a little bit. I think Matt's
Yeah.
the tip down master here.
All right,
It's
Manny.
actually my dad who is the tip down master, and I just got it handed down to me. He actually made them. So like most of them that you buy in the store are honestly like, I shouldn't say most, but if they're wooden bases, most of them are like small handmade companies. So tip down is basically just a wooden stand that's shaped like an L, and it ends up coming like what 2 feet off the ground, and it's got
There you
a
go.
divot. Yeah, there's a picture of it. Divot in each side, and then with just a straight old fashioned ice rod with like a fly style reel that you're able to lock down, put a dowel through the handle of the rod, and it just balances on that stand. And then when a fish grabs it, there's virtually like no resistance, and the tip just slowly drops down. The only bad thing about them is you have to get to them before the fish runs 3 feet. But for perch, that's not usually a big deal, and neither are crappies. So they're
Yeah, I love them.
pretty deadly.
They're so deadly, especially for like panfish. And I'm gonna build some of these this year. I know Caleb, you built some last year.
Yep.
Matt, you built yours. They're
Yeah,
easy to
super
make,
easy to build.
and you can use like. Didn't you guys go to like garage sales or something? One of you to get like.
Yeah,
the
I
old-
bought all my rods at garage sales. I bought like 4 of them for $8, and they're sweet because they're long rods too. They're like 4-foot rods, so it just gives you that much more extra distance that the fish is able to run. And I think it takes away a lot of the resistance too.
Yeah, and I do think that building them yourself is the way to go. You really don't need anything special there. But yeah, the long rods, that's interesting. So you're saying because they're longer, they're gonna tip easier. Just a little.
I think so. It's just because I've seen some store-bought tip downs with some pretty short rods, and if they're not balanced just perfect, they take a fair amount to pull them down. And especially with crappies, some of them are pretty finicky and they feel any resistance and they drag it halfway down, just let go before you have time to get to them.
Yeah.
So I think those longer rods give them less resistance when they're running with the bait, and it gives you more time to get to them.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I just love tip downs because you can yell tip down. Dead sticking is good too, but so strategy wise for setting them up, do you just kind of go at it, or you got
I mean,
you got a pattern?
for me, it just depends what you're targeting. So if we're fishing perch, gonna try to set it between 6 to 10 inches off the bottom, probably, depending how many weeds there are. Maybe just like 4 or 5 inches above the weeds. But for crappies around here, it seemed like halfway down the water column and 20 feet of water, sometimes only 5 feet down and 20 feet of water. I don't know. That's when a markham comes in handy because you can jig, kind of get a little bit of an idea on where most of the fish are sitting in the water column, and then just keep adjusting your tip down until you find them.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing that's super awesome with tip downs, like it's pretty much like the same thing as a tip up, but it just tips down. But tip ups, I feel like are like there's a lot more work in moving a tip up. Like tip downs, what we usually do is like if we got 3 guys, you got 9 holes, so we'll do like a pretty big spread. And if one or two in an area start going off a bunch, we'll just kind of move all of those tip downs into that area where where the one or two started getting hit a lot. And if that slows down, and there's one that's over here that starts going, it's really easy to just pick them up. All you do is you just got to pick it up right out of the water, go over to the hole and drop it back down, and you're fishing again. And it's really easy to be mobile. And like around here, we do like a lot of perch fishing, and it seems like schools of perch it's so weird. Like you'll be, in one hole just smacking them, and you'll go 5 feet the other way, dude, and you will not mark a single fish.
Yeah.
It's like those schools are packed in so tight together. So that's one thing that's really nice with the tip downs is like I feel like it's super easy to kind of hone in on a school of fish and and really put some damage on them.
Yeah, and you can easily build them yourself. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
too. They're cheap.
I don't know if I would want to build my own tip up.
Nope.
No.
Not me, anyways.
Yeah. Do you
Caleb,
think,
maybe.
Yeah, Caleb.
Yeah, maybe Caleb.
Caleb also built his own fly rod. Looks freaking awesome.
Badass.
Unreal.
Do you guys think if I can't use minnows out here, like just like a spike or what's the other one called? Not mealworm. What's the other?
Just a waxy.
Oh, waxy. Yeah. Do you think that'll do just fine, tip down wise?
Well, you can fish dead bait though, can't you? Like you can fish dead minnows.
That's something I still need to find out because I think they just.
I'm almost positive
I
you
think
can.
it's like the introduction of diseases and stuff they don't want, but yeah. So you would go dead minnow over waxy and spike, little worms like little.
I guess it depends.
Yeah.
Depends what you're fishing, in my opinion. But
That's what I was gonna say. Depends on what you're targeting. Like whenever, like we kind of discovered this 2 years ago, and I'm dead set on it now. Like whenever I use like tip ups, I always use dead bait. I always when I buy a dozen or shiners, I let them sit in the bucket with no water and flop around, and I let them die, and then throw them in a Ziploc bag with a bunch of salt, and that seems to really, really do well on tip ups. I haven't tried dead minnows on tip downs, but yeah, I mean, I would definitely go depending on what you're targeting, like Matt said. But dead bait is if you haven't tried it, definitely have to try it.
It's interesting. In Germany, you can't use any live bait. Like fishing there, it's super illegal for, I think, ethical reasons. But probably also they just don't want minnows getting in certain water columns and whatnot. Or, yeah, certain bodies of water. But, yeah, I'll have to try that. I'm just going to try everything. I know out here you can catch kokanee salmon. You guys heard of those?
my brother did that up by Glacier last year.
Did he get any?
Yeah, they did really well.
And
on Flathead, I think.
From what I was seeing, they're not huge, but they're like, 15, 16 inches out here.
They're probably so delicious.
Yeah, I get a bunch of the small salmon are probably better than the big ones.
Honestly.
So maybe if I get into those, you guys might have to come out here for that. That'd be sick. I want to get you guys out here anyway as soon as possible. And I don't think it needs to be an elk hunt. I think you can.
I told you, spring bear hunt. I'm going to be there.
Spring bear, yeah. We need to. I want to hear about your bear thing in a bit here. One more thing for ice fishing though. Early season was probably my favorite experience last year. Just really getting after them early season. Do you guys have a preference on when to fish, ice fish?
As soon as the ice is safe.
Yeah.
As soon as you can.
When is the ice safe? What do you think? I've been getting that question.
Not when we went out.
Not when we went out. So last year, Caleb and I, we crushed the perch in that day.
Oh, that was like the best day of fishing that I had that entire year.
We had 70. I don't even know how many. No,
dude, we caught so many. Well, the thing is like we limited out and we were only out there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was literally a spot where like Caleb could go and I would not go there because every time I walked over there and I'm like, I don't know how many pounds am I heavier than you? I'm like 205, 210.
Yeah, so you're like at least like 30, 40 pounds heavier than me.
I'm like, every time I walked, it's just like, and I'm like, I'm not fucking going 10 feet straight out where Caleb is, because.
and then the
airboat,
hovercraft, yeah, the airboat came by.
Literally, an airboat just zooms over the ice, and there's like an inch of water or two on the ice.
Dude, it literally like you could see the waves like go through the ice. And like we were standing there, we're like, oh, we're going in.
I was like, fuck, Caleb. And like, we just got like a little bit lifted from the ice, you know, from the movement. And like, oh, shit. So that was really sketchy. I know Matt and Tom, I know you guys you've been ice fishing for a long time, right? Both of you?
Oh yeah, literally like as long as I can remember.
I'm sure you had some sketchy situations like that, early ice.
Last year was probably the scariest, kind of by the spillway. My buddy and I were on like an inch and a half, but it was only like 4 feet, so we weren't super worried. If worst comes worst, you'd fall in, and I mean it would suck falling in, obviously, but you're gonna feel a touch. But yeah, that was pretty hairy. If there was like 2 people too close to a hole, the ice would like sink and the water would start coming over top of the ice.
Oh, no. Tom, have you ever fallen in or anything?
No, I've kind of been thinking that like at some point I want to do it just like on purpose. So like when it does happen, because like if you're an ice fisherman, like it's eventually gonna happen to you. Like you can be as careful as like you want to be, but at some point in your life, like I said, if you're an ice fisherman, you're gonna come upon a pocket where just out of some anomaly, there's just not that much ice there or whatever, and like you're gonna go through. And like Matt said, like a lot of the spots around here, we're not fishing super deep, so I'm never like really that scared about it. But with myself being a heavier set individual, I usually don't. I usually don't go out on the ice unless there's like 3 inches of like good clear ice, because I haven't had any like super sketchy moments, but I've thought about it enough in my head, and I've like seen people go in where it's like if I know I can't touch the bottom, I'm extremely careful about it just because I don't want to have to deal with that shit.
So get this crazy story. Our boss at work just told me he heard about these guys that went ice fishing somewhere out in the Midwest, and they were drunk as shit. And I don't know if this story is true.
So they're in Wisconsin.
Probably. So supposedly they decided to fucking throw dynamite out in the ice to blast a hole in there, and they were out there with their truck. I never looked if this story is 100% true, but I believe him. So this one of these guys literally lights like a stick of dynamite, or Terranite or whatever it's called, one of those explosives, throws it out, like, you know, walks away from the truck because they were aware of that, throws it way out. Well, what happens is your fucking dog runs after this stick of fucking dynamite, grabs it and starts running back at them, and supposedly they're like screaming like, drop it, drop it, drop it. And the dog got super freaked out and went under the truck, and it blew up, and the dog died, and the truck went under.
I do have an experience like that. It wasn't ice fishing, but
like that.
I do. But I'm like, no, same exact thing. Like one of my dad's friends, awesome person, but he's got some bad habits, and he likes making like his own like dynamite. I mean, he doesn't blow shit up or whatever, but like, you know, like
a nerd.
You know, because he was out on the farm. You know, if we're out snowmobiling or whatever, if we're out, you know, on the farm, you know, drinking some beers, he likes to just randomly light one up and just throw it. Well, he did that once when we were out at the farm, and one of the person's dogs took out after it and completely blew the dog's face apart.
Fuck. Dude,
yeah, I mean, worst. Not good, but like, yeah, I mean, like same exact thing as you said. I couldn't imagine doing that to somebody's dog.
Oh fuck, no, that's horrible. Jesus Christ. Well, on a lighter note, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no kidding.
I fell in last year a little bit. I went in.
Oh yeah, you
one
did.
Half. Yeah.
When we were going across that board.
No, not when I went across the board.
Oh, he like actually fell in.
Fell in. I was
really?
Yeah, I was with Caleb, and like, I don't know. We were just unreal. I mean, there was open water, and it was one of.
Yeah, that was kind of sketchy too, because like I was like so far ahead of you too. Like if you'd have like actually fallen in, dude, I wouldn't have. You would have just disappeared.
Yeah, because you were a good like 150 feet in front of me, or even farther. But I just like broke in with my right side, basically my right leg, and then I just threw myself to the left, and I like. That was that. Like it didn't break anymore, but I was wet then, and that wasn't fun. Although I had merino layers on, and when merino gets wet, it usually warms, the wool warms, so that wasn't too bad. But once the wind started picking up, that was kind of shitty too. Um,
That was just a shitty day all around.
It
too.
was, yeah. We didn't catch shit. Nothing. We didn't even mark stuff.
Like
But,
late season, just garbage.
Yeah. And thank you that's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask, like, late season, or at least, in February in Wisconsin, like when that bite gets slow, what the fuck do you do? I've never been able to figure out the fish den. Do you guys have any tips, or is it just like
That's when you start drinking.
yeah,
Literally.
just
Yeah,
can't
that's
do
the best
anything
tip
about
out
it?
there.
Start drinking.
Put up as many tip ups as you have and sit in the truck and watch them.
Yeah. Still get after them though, huh?
Oh yeah, still get after
Well,
them.
there's nothing else to do, really.
I will actually say this was the first year where like I was able to catch fish consistently, like mid and late season.
What's the secret here?
And I don't think it's a secret spot now is what it is. There was two spots that one of them I found myself, and another one a buddy had told me about. And it's the weirdest thing. It's like a really small area and it's really shallow. But like if you would go down with like a big ripping rap or something and just rip it around a bunch, like you would pull out green weeds. And I think that must have just been the one area, and who knows how big of a space that had green weeds still, which obviously means that the water's still holding oxygen and stuff. So I don't think that really applies so much for people who are fishing on lakes and stuff, because you're gonna get a lot of weed kill on the lakes, because they're lakes and they usually freeze completely over. But up here in the Mississippi with the river, there's open water everywhere, and I feel like for up here at least, the big thing is just trying to find. If you can find green weeds where there's still oxygen in the water, I think you're gonna have a good chance of getting on fish.
Well, that's why do they slow down? Do you know why? The fish, like why they get so lethargic?
I think part of it, for one, is just like the duration of the winter. I feel like I really haven't looked at like any studies or anything on this, but I feel like when there's a long duration of time and the water temperature is that cold, like I feel like their metabolism just starts to slow down so much over the course of the winter that even by the end of winter, they're not needing that much fish because their metabolism has slowed that much. I think pressure is a part of it too. But I think there's just so many factors that go into it. But
Well, and the
I
oxygen
don't know.
as well, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just
and
gets
there's
less.
like
Yeah.
and like I said, up here in the river it's different because we have there's current and there's open water, but on lakes and stuff, there's not a lot of people drilling holes out there. I mean, you're not gonna get a whole lot of oxygen going back into the water, which also slows down the fish a lot, I think. But I don't know. I think there's a lot that goes into it. You could say it's to be this or that more or whatever, but I don't know. They are fish, so we don't really know.
Yeah, they're
How
cold-blooded
they're-
animals, so their metabolism is completely based on the temperature of their environment. So like I feel like that's why they eat so much in early ice, is because they're just stocking up their bodies for nothing, to do nothing for the next late
That
season.
makes a
until
lot
spring.
of sense. I was
Yeah.
thinking about it because early ice they're usually like hammering it, right? So they probably yeah.
One big difference for some reason I've noticed around here during that like February lull, that like I guess you could call it. Down here, you're still constantly marking fish. It'll chase your bait around. They just won't eat. Compared to like up north where I'm from, like northern Wisconsin, you just kind of stop marking fish for a certain amount of time in the winter. It seems like you can look hard and you'll still get some marks here and there that'll chase your bait a little bit. But I think just from the current and the constant oxygen, the fish are at least staying semi and eating down here. They're just between like the pressure, like Tom said, and probably like Caleb said too, the metabolism and cold-blooded and prepping for that cold spell. They're still around, but that's one thing is we don't like lose the fish like you might on those lakes up north, like I've noticed.
Yeah, and the benefit of around the Mississippi is you have like a lot of water to just go on and try out. So that's kind of what I hear you say is like just hit as many spots as possible during that time. Try to really find them. Make Swiss cheese. Right?
Yeah, and that's
So-
what Tom did, and it worked. So
The river, I would say the river is a blessing, and it's also not a blessing because Like I found this out my first like year or two living here, where like 2 years in a row I went to one spot and just absolutely hammered fish. I haven't been able to catch a single fish like since then. Like the river, like even talking this morning, like duck hunting, we went to that spot and Matt was like, "Oh, there was just rice everywhere last year. It looks completely different." I mean, with the river, like with the water levels fluctuating so much, I mean, you never know what the water levels are going to be. And with floods and stuff, the river changes so much. So like, you could have a good spot for 2 years here, like you said, and then it'll be dry for another 10 years. But that's another thing that like helps us as fishermen keep learning and stuff, and makes it fun because it's with obviously, as you guys know, without part of the search and a little bit of the struggle, it's not as enjoyable.
Yeah, that's well said. I think the Mississippi just has a lot to offer in that way, and especially if you're like learning, it can really put you on your feet and whatnot. Tom, one more thing I wanted to ask you, maybe not as much ice fishing related, but I know you went to this fish hatchery thing, working with these cute little baby sturgeon. Tell me about that a little bit. Is that like,
Dude, that shit was it was freaking awesome. So it was a
was that a
volunteer
conservation?
opportunity.
Yeah, like was that a
Yeah.
conservation effort or what was that
So
all
yeah,
about?
they go through like hundreds of thousands of sturgeon at this hatchery every fall. And the employees can't, like, it's way too much work for the employees to do, because if the employees do it all, they can't take care of like the other fish they're doing. Um, so so I volunteered for it this year, and they do it for like 2 months, and it was really cool. I went to this little warehouse, and they got a bunch of probably like 35, I think it was, little kiddie pools, and they're all just filled with thousands of baby sturgeon. And so all the sturgeon at the hatchery that I was at came from Wisconsin. They go to like the Wolf River and the Wisconsin River, and they net them, and then they find the females, and they kind of collect all the eggs from the females, collect a bunch of sperm from the males. They bring it back to the hatchery, and even at the hatchery, it's not a perfect hatch rate. Usually they get about 85% of the eggs hatch, which versus against the wild, it's usually about like 15% of the eggs that survive in the wild. So there's already a much higher rate of of the egg moving on at that point. But yeah, the fish I was taking were going to the Missouri River. But yeah, it's really cool. It's taking like a little like toaster, oven kind of looking thing that sits in front of you. And it's got like a little prong that sticks out that shoots the tag out, which is microscopically. If you put it in your hand, you can see it, but you really got to look. So they have, depending on where the fish came from and where it's going, they get a tag in a different spot. So if you don't know what a sturgeon looks like, they have like spines on their body, and they're called scutes. So each sturgeon has 5 rows of scutes. They have one right down the middle, and then they have 2 on this side, then 2 on the bottom. And so every little, sticky point would be called a scute. Yeah, those little things right there.
Right there.
So depending on where the fish was caught and where it's going, it gets tagged in a different spot. So when they catch it or whatever,
You got to pee so bad.
they can know where it was caught and what river it was originally put in. So that was like super cool. You just kind of put it in where the tag's supposed to be. You hit the button, the tag goes in there. There's a little wand. You kind of just test to make sure the tag's in there. You toss it and you grab another one and you start going. I believe I tagged, because the toaster thing keeps track of you for you. I think I tagged like 800 and some sturgeon that day.
Wow, that's awesome.
And all of my sturgeon were from the Wisconsin River going to the Missouri River.
Is the Missouri River Montana? I'm pretty sure it is. No, I've heard. I think so.
I'm sure it goes through several states.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's on the east side, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's here. What kind of tags are these? Like GPS locators or?
Yeah. So they they track kind of where the fish is going, like you said, a GPS locator. So they can't track it all the time, but once the fish is caught or whatever, they can wand that tracker, and then at that point they'll know what it is. They'll know where it came from, where it went, and they can extract the tracker, and then they have a way of doing it where they can find out, where it's, how far it's traveled and whatnot. But I was only there for a half a day. I wanted to ask a lot more questions, but obviously the people who were working there had stuff to do on their own anyways, and didn't want to talk to me the whole time. Probably creepy dude with the mustache, but
Man, well, hey, I feel like those people, if you show the interest, they're more than willing to share all their knowledge.
oh yeah. Well, what it ended up being was I ended up talking to this one guy for like an hour about deer hunting. So
that's not bad either.
Oh no,
that's a topic we could probably all talk for hours about. So they're coming from Wisconsin though, because we have like one of the the best sustainable sturgeon fishery on Lake Winnebago, right? Is that where they were coming from, or?
The ones that I tagged were from the Wisconsin River.
Oh, okay.
But they also get a lot from the Fox River, which dumps into Winnebago. But
The Wolf.
Oh, the Wolf. Yeah, that's what I meant. The Wolf River.
Yeah.
That's yep. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
It's cool. It's a cool
Fox
thing.
is nasty.
What?
Yep. Fox is gross.
Gross river.
The Fox is a nasty river.
Just
Yeah, I live right next to the Fox.
Paper
muddy or
nickel.
what?
It's just good for.
Hmm.
There's some big catfish in Fox actually.
I want to get more like after catfish. That's a whole nother thing. But for the sturgeon, have you guys ever tried caviar, like sturgeon eggs? Caleb says yes.
Yeah, my uncle brings it home every now and again. I just had like the black caviar, or like really good stuff actually this past Christmas that he brought back from Russia.
Oh yeah, the Russian uncle. Yeah, we need to go hunt with him sometime out there. That's
He's not a big hunter, but I'm sure he knows like where we could figure it out.
Yeah, I don't want to go with
some
random
Russian
people.
boars. I'd go Russian boar hunting any
We
day.
can do that in Germany too, for sure, sometime. But for the sturgeon, yeah, I've had caviar. It might have been sturgeon caviar. I'm not sure 100%, but do you guys hear about that guy last year, that wildlife biologist? I know, Caleb, you did, because your friend applied with him, or in his agent, like his, what would you call it? Like, he just was going to work for that guy. And I guess
The dude who got busted selling it.
yeah, for like years he was just taking sturgeon and just selling all the eggs illegally. It's kind of wild. The trout eggs though is something I want to touch on real quick. I tried making those. That was super simple. Have you you guys ever had any neat like?
Oh, was it? Was it good?
Yeah, man, I thought it was good. I mean, definitely fishy a little bit, It's interesting texture, but I mean, I think everyone should try doing it and see if they like it, because you might be missing out on something that you actually really enjoy, and it's got a shit ton of vitamins and just nutrients in it. People pay a ton of money for salmon roe, and I cannot imagine that being very different on a nutritional level, since they're both salmonids and very similar fish and whatnot. Really, a more fatty fish, right?
Yeah. I never tried it, but like you said, I don't know. For me, the reason I haven't, I feel like it's kind of the texture thing. I don't know.
Picky eater, man.
I wouldn't say I'm a picky eater, but I've held fish eggs in my hands a lot of times, and it just feels weird having them in your hand even.
Yeah, it does feel, they feel weird in your mouth as well, I would say.
That's what she said.
Oh.
I had to stick that one in there.
Well, it's like Caleb's.
It's too easy.
Caleb always throws in stuff like that. Like last time, what was it? The big nuts, the big pine nuts.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
That podcast got a little wild.
I
drank a lot of wine.
Entire 4 hours.
Yeah.
Did you really?
You listened to it? Really?
On my way to go salmon fish.
Fuck,
Nice.
3 hours there, 3 hours back.
let's go. That was I liked it. I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, it was fun to do.
I learned.
We just got
something.
so drunk.
We'll have to do an in-person one for sure sometime. Well, I know
Yeah.
we've been going for a while, and I know you guys want to go duck hunt, but I want to touch on one more thing, and that's Matt. You never really told me about your spring bear hunt experience here in Montana, and I think maybe us four, including Dylan, We should, and your brother Matt, we could split up 3 and 3 and do a sick spring hunt next year here. I think we should do that. But tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about it. Like, how much was it out of state, and like, how was like kind of the experience for you?
I didn't buy a tag this year because my brother was still technically a non-resident, and I believe it's just straight up over the counter. So like, if he shot one and I wanted to grab a tag, I could have just grabbed one.
The spring bear, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it was $350 for a non-resident, which isn't terrible compared to a lot of non-resident tags for say like an elk or something. But definitely probably one of the coolest things I've ever done, just because around here you're not able to hunt anything in the spring other than turkeys. So, which I mean, I love turkey hunting, but it's definitely not big game hunting in my eyes. But we went out there completely blind because my brother just moved into the Bozeman area like a couple weeks before I went out there. So we just did a lot of onX scouting. People always say look for like southerly facing hillsides, avalanche chutes, any old logging road type deal. The first 3 days we struggled bad. We didn't, well, actually, first day we went up this mountain like balls early in the morning, glass for a few hours, hiked. I think we did like 8 miles, 9 miles. And then we were coming back down by like noon because we were maybe going to hit another spot. And we ran into a guy who was definitely a local. He's like, "Do you guys find that big black one up there?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, there's a big bear in this area." He's like, "Why are you guys coming down already?" We're like, I don't know. We don't know what we're doing. He's like, 2 o'clock's the magic time out here. Or
Okay,
4 o'clock.
that's good to know.
2 o'clock? Yeah, 2 o'clock, I think. He's like, 2 o'clock's the magic time. Like, okay, like whatever you say. Then we ended up going into a different range for the next 3 days. And we were on bears for like 3 days straight. And every single day at 2 o'clock, at least in the 2 week period or the week period that we were out there. And I mean, we were on them. We got, I think the closest we got was like 450, 500 yards from one. And obviously my brother wasn't really comfortable in a shot like that, especially not shooting long range at animals before. So we tried to sneak in, and it seems like they just kind of show up out in the open for like an hour and then just kind of go back into the timber. And once they're back in the timber, they're pretty tough to find, but definitely something that seems very doable. And with my teaching schedule, definitely something I'm probably going to make a yearly thing.
Let's definitely do it. What do you guys think? We should do it this spring. I think that would be an awesome experience. I mean, I know Matt.
And we
you're
got
down.
free lodging between Poldi and my brother now, so
True, very true.
that takes away like half the cost of usually a trip like that.
It takes away the insane Airbnb cost that we're in Montana right now. It's just crazy prices. But that sounds like an awesome trip. I didn't know that the bears would be active in the middle of the day like that, because you always hear that bears avoid like the full sun and whatnot.
I think it was because we were a little bit early compared to when a lot of guys hunt out there. We were, when was it?
It was
Second
right
week
before
in
I left.
May.
It was like first week
Yeah,
of
I think it
June.
was like second week in May because it was as soon as our semester ended.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So I think I want to say I left here like May 14th. So it was a little early. So we're still getting to like 80 degrees. But I don't think that's too bad considering what it does get to like come June. Like you might get like the 90-degree days, and that's when it sounds like it's more of an early morning, late afternoon thing. When we were out there, I mean, all the bears we saw were midday and exactly what we were looking for: avalanche chutes, south-facing ridges with as much greenery as you can find. And then,
Yeah, I've been
I
looking.
mean, it's a lot of walking, a lot of glassing, but that's what's fun about hunting out west that we don't get to experience around here. So
Big time. Yeah, I've been. You know what I really would like ideally is a fall bear. I've just been so interested in getting all that bear fat to turn into lard to cook with, and I also hear that. I guess this, the bears obviously hibernate for like, I think it's like 6 months out of the year. They'll wake up and like, I think it's like, yeah, probably a little bit right before you got there, early, like late April, early May. And obviously they're going to be hella hungry. They're going to go out and eat whatever. I read that they go lower after hibernation to just get to that greenery. that fresh growth. Look for dead carcasses that maybe are out after the winter. But from there, throughout the summer, they'll move a lot more to like forage and the berries in the late summer. Like I saw a lot of bear poop this year, berry foraging, like around huckleberries, service berries, and a bunch of other berries that I didn't know what they were. So I know that in the fall they just load up on berries, and I've heard that their like fat gets sweet from that, and obviously the berries it's probably berries and nuts, and that's probably a lot of energy, so that's where they get all that fat from. They got to get all that fat on their body for the hibernation again in the winter. But that's ideally, if I could, I would get a fall bear, but I think we should hit the spring bears for sure.
Maybe a bear turkey combo. That's my goal this year. I'm hoping to get out different. I'm hoping to get out this spring. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it's difficult. Like you got to go more eastern Montana. Around Bozeman,
Yeah.
I really haven't seen any. Maybe one flock. Is it you call it a flock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think so.
I haven't seen many at all, but yeah, turkey hunting. You guys need to get Caleb into turkey hunting this year. Caleb,
I've never
Caleb,
turkey
you don't
hunted.
do it?
I've never turkey hunted in my life.
No, it's
Dude,
I don't know why.
If you got hooked on waterfowl hunting, you're probably in trouble if we take you out for a turkey hunt.
What we should do next year, Matt, is we'll take Caleb out for a turkey hunt next spring, and you can call and I'll film, and we'll make a dope ass video of Caleb absolutely just shattering a Tom's head.
Yes. I want to see.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we can probably manage that one.
Yeah, I guess for me, like turkeys have always been a thing. Like I just see them around when I'm deer hunting, and like I never really thought much about it, honestly. Like I don't know.
If you like calling, you like.
I love calling.
That's what I was just gonna say. Caleb loves calling and deer. I mean, I love calling, so that's why I love turkey hunting and duck hunting, because it's something that you actually get a adequate response the majority of the time, whereas deer, half the time you call them and they turn their head, turn back the other way and keep doing their thing. Even if like a tom is hung up and he really doesn't want to move, if you kind of know what you're doing on a call and maybe reposition yourself a couple times, you can usually get that tom to break and kind of do what you want him to do.
And Caleb, going with these two guys, in the driftless, I know they go hard. It's so fun. It's very similar to elk hunting, and you're just like walking along these ridge lines. You're using the bluffs and rocks to your advantage, and it's just a whole nother way to experience that area, that region in an awesome way. And with your foraging knowledge, I'm sure you'll run into a lot of plants. How I did when we were turkey hunting.
I feel like Poldi and I end up spending more time picking ramps and paying attention for turkeys, and we had one sneak up on us.
Yeah, that one. Remember that one that just disappeared? I swear I saw it. I swear I saw it. We need to do something.
I think Poldi was eating too many ramps, started hallucinating, saw a turkey or something.
No.
I spooked a turkey at the day that I shot that doe out on that property. There's turkeys out there.
Yeah, fall turkey hunting is just, and not a lot of people do it, right? It's just you can't call for them, and
well, you can, but you pretty much have to like find a flock, run into the flock, bust them all up, and make sure they fly in different directions. Then you can kind of call them back into like where they think the flock's hanging out. But generally, turkey hunting is a pain in the ass in the fall unless you know what you're doing.
So
I buy one and keep it in my back pocket just in case I see one with my bow. But other than that, I don't really try.
Yeah. I know a lot of people do that. Elk hunting, they'll have like what's it called, a judo tip with just a crappy arrow, just in case they see a grouse or something. Just get a shot at a grouse. I mean, that's a decent. What's it called? Fuck, I'm missing the English word. Condolent? No, I'm not even gonna try. It's like it's a good.
I don't even know what you're trying to say.
I'm trying
getting two birds
like,
stoned at once, Poldi.
Yeah,
that's
like
what it is.
Yeah.
If you're not getting an elk, can still make your day. I think if you at least get a grouse. That's what I'm trying to say.
Consolation prize.
Consolation. Thank you. That's the
there we go. Caleb.
Help me with the English here.
I've spent enough time with Poldi to figure out what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, guys, hours. I think that's a pretty
Holy
good time.
shit.
We
Yeah, let's go
talked
shoot
about
some
a lot.
ducks.
Yeah, you guys get after them ducks, and I think we should do this more often.
Yeah, let's do
That'll
it.
be fun. I haven't
Hell
really
yeah.
done the 4 people ones as much, but I like it. You guys
Hey,
all have
Poldi, you know who we got to get on here?
who?
We got to get Drewby on because he hit South Dakota and Nebraska this year for
Yeah,
muley. So
and Drew's been on for ice fishing and trout fishing and duck hunting, so I got to get him on for sure. I want to. And I haven't talked to him in so long. I hope he's doing well.
it seems like he just got a new job. Oh, hey, side note, he asked me to be his best man at the wedding, so that's kind of exciting.
No, that's
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
the boy, Matt.
Yeah,
Congrats.
so
Congratulations.
start brewing some bachelor party ideas for me.
Well, we'll start brewing some beer or some wine for that.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Spring bear
There
trip.
you go.
Yeah, spring bear trip.
That could be it.
All right. So you plugged your YouTube channel. Do you want to just send people there again? Tell them how they can find that.
Yeah. Like I said, Instagram, it's at TD or at Too Damn Tough Outdoors on Instagram. And on YouTube, if you search TDT Outdoors or Too Damn Tough Outdoors, you'll be able to find me. Also, in my Instagram bio, there's a link in there. Like I said, I try to post as much as I can on my Instagram account during the week and try to get at least 1 or 2 videos up a month. Probably be more often once ice fishing comes, because with the self filming and the amount of gear that I have, that's probably the easiest for me. But yeah, go ahead and check me out. Love the support, and yeah, that's about it.
I will definitely link in the podcast episode description to that. And if the other guys want, I can link to your profiles too. Matt, I know you do some sick photography. So
I've been slacking. I've been really slacking. It's something I got to pick back up. So yeah.
I don't like hearing that.
Dude, student teaching's kicking my ass.
Caleb, how is the graduate program coming along?
Slowly but surely.
All right, good. Well, damn, I gotta say I miss you boys big time, and I'm coming
fun.
back. I know I'm coming back for Thanksgiving, and then over Christmas I'm gonna come back for a period, maybe like 9 days or so. So then
Awesome.
If not, I think we should do that cookout on Thanksgiving, and if that doesn't happen, then for sure on Christmas time.
I think what we should do when you come back for Christmas is we should do an On the Ice podcast in my shanty.
Yeah, that would
Cook a
actually be
meal
really
on the
cool.
ice.
Oh, dude, perfectly. We could do the meal and the podcast on the ice.
It's got to be it's got to be in the shanty so it's not as windy, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a nice pop up. All 4 of us will fit in there easily.
Let's do it. That's a good idea.
That'd be some shit.
All right, guys. Have fun duck hunting. Keep me updated. I hope you guys get a lot.
Me too.
Same.
Sweet. See you later.
See ya,
Awesome.
Paul.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. It was my first podcast I had ever done, and I really enjoyed it. Definitely want to do more. Yeah, like I said, I hope you subscribe to Poldi and his podcast, The Year of Plenty. Check it out. Subscribe to him. Write a review, whatnot. And the other guys I'll have linked down below as well. But I would like to thank you guys for watching. I'd like to thank Poldi for getting me on the podcast. And I'd like to thank Matt and Caleb as well for being on the podcast as well and being great friends / mentors for me and a lot of hunting and fishing endeavors and foraging endeavors so far. So thank you guys all for watching, and see you next time.